Boom. You know what time it is? It's 8:08 breakfast banter time. Pull up with your morning coffee. Pull up with your good vibes. It's Thursday. Got both the brothers here today. It's a good day to have a good day. The sun is shining. I'm outside. The water is flat as a pancake. So I just thought it'd be glorious to sit out here and have a cheeky banter. Good morning, brother.
Banter. Morning. Canny, what's the weather over there at the moment?
It's getting cold. So you guys are like going into the warmth and I'm going the other way. And it's getting...
Oh, man, it's going to be so cold. It's going to be wet for 9 months of the year for you. We're going to be gloriously in lockdown, but in the sun.
Yeah, I know. It's been... it was raining yesterday and the weather's getting a little bit colder. So, yeah, I think that's it. And the daylight's getting darker as well. So I imagine within the next maybe month, it's probably going to be dark at like 4 o'clock. Stupid times like that. It's dumb. But oh well.
That sounds exciting.
Yeah, I can't wait to send you photos of us at 9 o'clock outside drinking a cold pals.
Yeah, I know. Jesus.
Still adjusting to the daylight savings. That's where you were last time, eh? So
I did. Yeah, so I didn't know it was daylight savings where you guys were. So I was because I go to the gym at night.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, we'll pop into the supermarkets. And so me and Becky went to the supermarket and we're getting a few things. And then that's when Chief messaged me and was like, it's daylight savings, by the way. And so it was already like, I think you guys have been on for about 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And I was like, shit. I was like, I didn't know that. But,
that is hilarious. Well, I'm glad to see you anyway, bro. It's been a weekend too long.
Yep. How has everyone been? What's the heps over there? Level 3 still?
Yep. Level 3. We've had Levi and Carly in the gym, and so it's back to business as usual with Carly.
Back to annoying Carly.
Annoying her, something chronic.
I bet she's loving
awesome. It. Oh yeah. So we did this video yesterday that we posted up of her talking about when the Christmas workout and party's going to be. So it's a 15-second video. You've probably seen it already. It took her 40 takes.
Hey.
And the guys last night said you've got to do like a behind-the-scenes bloopers video. So on my list of things to do today, I'm going to do a little bloopers video.
Yeah. Like a little montage of her stuffing up.
Oh man, it was like, oh no, my chest doesn't look right in this. Oh God, I look ugly. Look at my crows, Levi was about to jump out the window because he was doing the filming and he was just like, oh my Lord.
But how hard is it though? How hard is it to speak in front of a camera?
Oh, it is hard. Like she did really.
Do you
awesome.
think it's harder? Do you guys both? Because you are both coaches and take classes. Do you think it's harder than speaking in a camera than it is to take a class of people you don't know?
I've gotten used to being in front of the camera. I think the banter's probably helped a lot.
Yeah.
What I don't like is replaying the video and going, God, I sound like that.
Yeah. I did
that's the worst. That's by far the worst. Is like
that Tabata video I put up the other day.
Yeah.
Oh, that was like 1 minute long.
Yeah.
The whole thing before I cut it down was 8 minutes. Because
that
it was just
good,
me.
Though.
It was just me like saying the same thing, or I didn't say it right. Because I just left it on, and I literally had like a script on my thing.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I tried to say it all, but I couldn't. I kept mucking it up. So I'm like, I have to say like a sentence at a time. So I'd like say a sentence and then go back and then say a sentence and then I'd say it wrong and then I'd redo it. And then that's why it looks like it's like jumping from frame to frame, because all I've done is just done a sentence and then cut the rest of the shit out.
Yeah.
And then the next sentence. And fuck, it was so hard, especially talking to about something like that was just really, really hard.
And trying to get as much information in as possible. I reckon that is, if you can use your words good,
yeah, that's what I had to cut a lot of stuff out because I needed it to fit in a reel. And at the end of the day, I couldn't fit it all in a reel. I think it took over a minute. So I had to do like an IPTV. But yeah, that's something I've got to try and figure out.
How funny is it though? And do you giggle and like cringe at yourself when you play it back?
Yeah. I hate editing it because I'm looking at it, I'm watching it, I'm like, fuck, I'm an idiot.
I got the same.
I'm like, fuck, I'm a knob.
Yeah.
Honestly though,
And you find that you use filler words a lot,
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you know, and you really have to learn how to not say it.
Yeah.
And breathe when talking, because you use those fillers words to breathe.
Yeah.
And
it is a tough gig, but I think the hardest part is watching yourself back. Like I'm like, there's so many moments. I think we talked about it last week on the banter, how when there's those moments that you regret like shaking someone's hand and then they don't go for the handshake. That is a moment. Like when you're watching, when you hear yourself back, you're like, your world changes, man. Damn.
Or you're 4 months after you've done the video, and then you're sitting there, and then all of a sudden you have like a flashback memory of doing that video, and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I get that all the time.
Yeah.
Nothing like feeling a little vulnerable to yourself, though. Anyways.
Right, team. So should we get to this little coach's corner?
Yeah, let's have a coach's corner session.
All right, big guy. Name me your 3 top underrated strength movements that aren't done enough by programmers, coaches, or gyms.
So I would say, I was trying to think about this today. I'm just going off like experiences that I have that I've kind of figured out that movement that were super valuable, and I think obviously lunges are really valuable, are really underrated movement. There was a point because I've had, I don't know who's watching, but because I've had ACL surgery before from way back in the day, my knee plays up every now and again, and there was a period maybe a year or year and a half ago where I just couldn't. I've just never been able to do a squat cycle. And then I saw some stuff that Ryan Fisher was doing, and he has the same kind of problem, probably worse than me, but he can't squat either because he's got some damage in his knee. So he just lunges, does heavy back rack lunges instead of a squat. That's what he's replaced it with. And if you haven't seen that dude lunge, he's got a 405-pound lunge, 180 kilos. That's what he can lunge.
On one leg.
On one leg, 180 kilos. Yeah. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna try this out. I'm gonna try replacing this with some instead of squatting all the time because I just can't do it. It's hurting my knee. And then surprisingly, I think it helped out heaps. I didn't really squat for like 4 months, and then I remember one day Levi, I was just lunging, doing heavy back rack lunges. I got up to be able to do, I think the heaviest I could lunge. I think I was doing sets of maybe 3 or 4 at 120, which was pretty heavy for a lunge. And then I remember Levi was like, should we just do a 1 RM front rack, a 1 RM front squat? And I was like, okay, I'll give it a nudge. Classic him though, he does a 1 RM every day. But I was like, come on, I'm feeling good, let's do it. And then I ended up PBing my front squat. So, and I hadn't done any squatting. Obviously, I had done your traditional wall balls and like the lighter squatting stuff and thrusters, but in terms of just a basic strength movement, lunging had been my main thing. So I think that is super underrated. Just simply because I think there can be a lot of people, most people, 9 times out of 10 have a imbalance in their body, and I think just correcting that, not even getting stronger, but correcting that imbalance can help with your overall strength. So that's something I noticed with one of mine. But that was a bit of a rant.
I totally agree.
Would you say that the lunge is also an underrated movement, Chief?
Yeah, so for those that have been doing the battle test through this lockdown, you'll notice that I've been putting lunging in every week, if not twice a week. And I think generally what happens, what I've found over the course of time is that when people squat and they just continually squat and squat and squat, bad mechanics come into play because they're trying to push the weight, the volume increases, etc. And so what we've done is that we've gone to unilateral work, i.e. lunging, whether it be back rack or front rack, whether it be overhead with a dumbbell or a barbell, or if we're going to do a split Bulgarian squat, which is basically a lunge with 1 foot on a bench and 1 foot on the ground.
Yeah.
Because what that does is that, as Canny said, right, if you have an imbalance, and we all do, but generally for average people, 9 times out of 10, they will have a huge imbalance. If we were to put 2 scales on the ground, and we get them to stand on the scales, left foot on the left scale, right foot on the right scale, you can sometimes see a change up to 7-8 kilos on a shift, right? And that's because people are leaning one side, overdeveloped to one side, etc. So what lunges does is that it ties that back in, and with the amount of lunging that I've been doing over the last 7 weeks, when I did some squatting yesterday, it felt so easy.
Wow.
Yeah, because you're a bit more balanced, you're not pushing to one side, and I think it's so undervalued to the point that I think you should teach people to lunge before you teach them to squat. That's my preference. Because people's range of motion isn't that great. So you see some people with squatting and they look like they're about to jump off a ski ramp, right? Because they're so folded over. Yeah. But if you were to do a lunge, what you're teaching them now is how to stay nice and upright. You can work with their gait, and they don't have to go to like below depth, because most people lunges are at parallel. So that's the reason why I prefer lunging over squatting.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think there's
and it's where you get the booty.
Yeah, like if you've ever done like heavy lunges or like a lot of lunges, your ass is like really like worse than squatting. I don't know, like every time I do lunges, my ass hurts like really bad. But then but then if I squat, I don't really get sore glutes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Do you prefer stepping back or stepping forward on the lunge?
I like stepping back. I think it's just I think just because you put the tension on that working leg the entire time, as opposed to stepping forward. Because you step forward, and then until that foot hits the ground, and that's when that leg starts working. As opposed to if you
the mechanics
step back,
are different on both if you go front or forward, hey? Like, is different muscles working? And
well, it's just time under tension.
Right.
I think it's and like I wouldn't mind lunging probably up to about 80 kilos forward stepping at the moment, but I don't think I want to go any heavier, because I feel like my thigh is going to go straight out through the front of my knee, because there's a lot of shearing forces as you come. Yeah, it just drives over.
Yeah.
What else, buddy? What's another movement that you would say is underrated?
Then I'd say midline work, but specifically like loaded midline stuff, like bracing stuff. Things like overhead walks with kettlebells, and farmers carries and sandbag carries and things like that. Just because you're trying to strengthen your torso into that neutral position, so you're trying to like get into the neutral position and then get strong in that position, so that you can lift, like do the other stuff, the squats, the deadlifts, and all that kind of stuff, in a safe manner and under some good load, as opposed even like the overhead stuff. Like I find that really hard for me, especially on my left shoulder. But trying to hold a neutral position, but be in that upright, but like have that arm locked overhead as well and stacked. I mean, that's going to help heaps with like handstand stuff, overhead squatting, things like that, because you're able to brace and have that neutral position in your midline the entire time through while you're holding something overhead.
Are these moves, like as you said, the lunge, and now you're saying bracing your core, are these moves for like everyday people, or just specific to CrossFit, or specific to strength and conditioning coaches, or is it like basically across the board?
I would say that for everyone. And if I was to have my time back now to when I very first started PTing, I would be utilizing heavy, like as my third movement was heavy carries, whether it be a yoke carry, whether it be a barbell on the back with 100 kilos and you're holding it or you're walking with it, some form of weighted carry to strengthen your midline is perfect for right up until your older people, because what that does is it grows and develops that TVA, your transverse abdominis, your erector spinae, all those things where people get, I get lower back pain. That's it.
Mhm.
And also, I think the challenge that a lot of people have when they do those sort of movements is they try and go too heavy, and you see people do like an overhead carry with a dumbbell, and they're like this.
Yeah.
They're out to the side where we want that nice stacked position. It doesn't have to be super heavy. I think that's the key for a lot of people is they try and go too heavy too quick. A 25 kilo dead pull at 100 meters is not pleasant.
Yeah.
Is it just like developing a good time under tension for that part of your body? So you're just saying like all in your core and that, eh?
Yeah, it just teaches you to brace and hold and activate. When we tell people, lock your core in. Well, when you're carrying something heavy, you have to. Otherwise, you look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. And it's such an underutilized movement.
True.
I actually don't have a third one. That's in my two. So if you got a third one.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I don't know if this one falls into it. So I've got kind of two other ones. One is a unilateral strict press dumbbell. Yeah. Or whether it be in a bench press. So like a single arm dumbbell bench press or a single arm strict press. I think that's really underutilized solely for the imbalance side of the house and developing even strength right across the board. I think that's a really underutilized movement, especially for Olympic lifting. For like jerks, you see people when they jerk, they look like they're like this because they're pushing too hard on one side, etc. So that kind of balances you out. And the other one is sled pushes and sled drags.
Yes.
Definitely.
That's a good one.
Like I now program it every week, some form of either a heavy or a light, because you're just developing a lot more power, a lot more time under tension through your core and through your legs, and it just is going to amplify any movement that you do, and you can do it for any age group, whether you're a 12-year-old kid right up to a 75-year-old man.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that, and so that's why I think it's so undervalued. And if I could do it again, if I could do the gym again, get more sleds.
I've been walking backwards for 10 minutes of my 5K walk, just because I heard it helps knee pain, and man, I've noticed a difference. Like I've noticed, like just the different muscle groups that I'm using. Like I know, like don't mean to toot my horn, but but I know I've got a decent squat, but it wasn't feeling like a good squat. But I think doing all the like lunges and like walking backwards and stuff, I think it's like, I don't know, it's like correcting my form a little, which is making it feel like it's stronger rather than it just being good, if that makes sense. Which has been interesting though, because I heard that sled pushes and sled pulls were also good for that type of strength, or like for your knee. But that was just my 2 cents on that.
You'd love a guy in the knees over toes guy if you haven't seen him before.
Yeah, that was the guy that I saw it from. I was like, oh, I want to try that, and it's been actually working. So it's been awesome. What was your next question, bro?
All right. So the next one was, what makes a good coach and a good programmer, and can you be good at both?
Can you?
Can you be good at both? My 2 cents on this is that you can be good at both, but it is incredibly hard to be good at both.
Hard.
So, I would say that I am probably a better programmer than I am a better coach. But I'm getting better at coaching because it's time in front of people. But with programming, you can kind of really sit down and take your time with it and develop it. And each week progresses quite easily. Whereas coaching, you've got to be fairly quick on the spot with coming up with solutions and trying to figure out ways of getting around challenges and being able to communicate effectively to people in different ways. How I would communicate to Mo would be completely different. How I would communicate to Kelly, to etc. You know what I mean? So I would say that it's easier for me to be a programmer than it is to be a coach. However, I think I'm an all right coach. I'm not a great coach, but I think I am a great programmer.
Awesome.
Personally.
You, Canny?
I think being a good coach, I think there are kind of different skills for both. I feel like the ones who are really successful at both are the ones who have possibly coached for years and then gone into programming, not the other way around. People like Ben Bergeron, and who owns CompTrain and runs, what is it, New England CrossFit?
Yeah. He owns about 4 of them now, I think.
Yeah, I feel like he's probably one of the really successful ones who's really good at both. Yami from the training plan, I know he was on the CrossFit seminar staff. So if you've ever, or like if any of those CrossFit courses, they're really tough on like how to cue people and things like that. So I feel like someone like him had really good possibly coaching skills, and then obviously went into the training plan and done his own programming. Now that's pretty successful. But I think for a coach, I think the main thing is obviously just I think there's 2 things. I think that's the depth of knowledge in cueing people. You could say one thing to somebody and they don't get it, but you say it slightly in a different way, and all of a sudden they'll get it. And then I think a really good coach can communicate those things depending on who the person is and how they kind of take things on board. And then also I just think, and I'll build on top of that, I think their communication, their interpersonal skills with people, ability to build relationships and stuff. If you trust the coach, you're likely to share things with them, your goals and all that kind of stuff with them a lot more on that level. In terms of programming, I think you need like a super deep knowledge on training. Like me and Chief used to talk about it all the time. Like if you look at CrossFit programming, it looks like it's just like a whole bunch of random stuff put together. And then the next day it's just another whole bunch of random stuff put together. But there's different things to it, right? There's like you can have there's time domains you got to think about. Okay, today I want my athletes to be doing a 15 to 20 minute metcon and I want them to focus on how to pace themselves and be a bit tactical with how they're going to approach it. Or it could be a 5-minute metcon where it's like, okay, there's no tactics, I just want you to sprint and see if you can hang on. And then if on Monday there was back squats and thrusters and things like that, it's not a smart idea on Tuesday to do wall balls or lunges, because your legs are going to be smoked, because you don't want your athletes to get injured, but you do want them to progress quite nicely. And I think it takes like a really in-depth of knowledge of how to train people to be able to do that. And you're not just thinking of like that week, you're thinking over the whole year, right? Like Chief is probably thinking of up to nationals. Nationals is the end point, or maybe the Open's the end point, I'm not sure. But then you have to try and like, okay, for this 6 weeks we're going to focus on our strength, and then at this spot in the year we're going to focus on this, and then this, and then so I think it's super, and you have to be really, really on with your knowledge of training.
What about in terms of like programming for I think one like personal training, does that still exist anymore? Like, or or what if it's not CrossFit related? How do you incorporate that question?
Or that's a really good point. I think that comes down to what Canny was saying before, having an in-depth knowledge of training stimulus and being aware of who the person is that you are doing the one-to-one coaching. And believe me when I say this, I have made probably more mistakes in programming and coaching than I have successes. But those failures and those mistakes that I've made have allowed me to develop and grow into those areas where I can effectively help people. I think the challenge that a lot of young coaches, programmers, trainers do is that they think there's a one-stop shop for everyone. That, hey, we are going to do unilateral press, we're going to do squatting, and we're going to do leg press and leg extension, etc. We're going to do 9 training movements, whatever. However, the challenges for a lot of people is that they might not have that time to be able to do that. They might have certain challenges and injuries. And as a one-to-one, you have to have that ability to be able to communicate and understand what that person wants and then develop something for them. And that's where I think if you go back to those first points that Canny and I were talking about in terms of movements, really basic and keeping it simple is the key.
Yep. I think I think there are a lot of not just in CrossFit. I mean, like in other stuff too. But there's a lot of especially like influencer kind of people, and you see some of their stuff, and you can just tell you just like you don't know what you're doing. You don't know. You don't have the knowledge to like do this properly. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I remember, Chief, we saw that girl, and she was doing like snatches with no dumbbell, and she was calling it a clean and jerk or something like that. And she was doing it was the dumbest shit. And then I remember you commented on their thing and was like,
You're an embarrassment.
Yeah, you shouldn't be. You're an embarrassment. You shouldn't be like doing this.
I mean, I watched a guy last night. I think his name is Dr. Seidman. I can't remember if his name is accurate, but he's a strength conditioning coach. That's what he calls himself, and he's the type of guy that's like super complicated, overcomplicates things, super analytical. But what he does is he does these really weird things, like he'll grab a trap bar, which is like a deadlift bar kind of strength apparatus, and then he will get these athletes to stand on 1 foot, and then he'll get them to snatch the trap bar with weight into the overhead, and then look at doing a twist, and then come back down slowly under tension, and then go into a jerk, and he's like, this is the most brutal overhead press variation you would ever get. Yeah. And those types of people should never, ever, ever be allowed in front of normal people.
What's your guys' favorite parts about coaching?
Problem solving.
Fair.
Personally.
You're very good at it.
Problem solving for an athlete and getting them to understand a movement that they would normally think, I could never get the power snatch, and then all of a sudden you give them one cue and they crack it. It's just
I can
awesome.
relate. It's like being able to do a handstand. Like that is that exact same feeling. I like remember going to Sammy. I don't know how to do it, and then like it was like, well, by the end of this you will, and that's exactly what it is. It's got not knowing that you can do it, and then you guys are like, you can do it. What about you, Canny?
Yeah, I'd say probably something similar to. Probably something similar. I like to. I kind of. What's. Classic pass.
Classic pass.
Yeah. I actually like it when you see a member who finally gets something, like exactly kind of what Chief said. But like, I think you build these. You see them come in every single day, and you see them keep trying, and you see them finally get something, and like you feel happy for them because you know the background. I think that's why we get so invested and emotional when we see each other at nationals and stuff, and we see each other compete, and we get so hyped, and we get so happy or sad or things like that because we know we see that person come in every day and just like try their hardest. And sometimes it doesn't go their way, and you feel for them. And then sometimes it does, and you're just like, yes, I've seen you come in twice a day, every day for the last 4 months or whatever. And I think seeing stuff like that or experiencing it with them is awesome.
That definitely is in the feels. I think that's
it.
It's
Results
definitely
in
the feels.
Yeah.
No, that's awesome. That's been a really awesome Coach's Corner. I hope everyone gained some knowledge from that. Gonna definitely chop that up and create a snippet out of that. What have we got to expect for the next Coach's Corner, Chief? What do you reckon? If there's any questions that you guys want to ask, put it out there, man.
Yeah, so what we might do is we might put up a little post next week saying if you got some questions around coaching, let us know. But I'd love to talk about the Dubai Fitness Champs.
Yes.
And the athletes that are coming through. Mr. Ricky Garrard, obviously, as a key point, but there's some smoking athletes in there that I think might surprise some people. So I would like to get some views on who your potential top threes will be, because it's only 20 in each. So, it's a small field, and I think there's going to be I think this will be the first chance of actually seeing what next season is going to look like. So it's an exciting time. So that's probably the one that I will focus on. And then, what we might do is we might talk about some of your favorite types of workouts as well.
Yeah, me.
Sweet. Sounds good.
That sounds awesome. Kenny, pick a number between 38 and 48, and it can't be 43 and 44. And before we finish, happy birthday, Mary Kath. You're amazing.
Happy birthday,
human.
Mary Kath.
Happy birthday, MK.
You do so much for your people.
What numbers again?
Between 38 and 48, and it can't be 43 or 44.
We'll go 47.
47. Okay, quote of the day. Each moment of the year has its own beauty, a picture which was never before and shall never be seen again. Ralph Waldo Emerson. Quote of the day, setting you up for Thursday. Thank you for joining us, bro.
All good.
Thank you for picking up your time. We will be back for a Friday banter session, so make sure you pull up with the good vibes. Have a good day. Get out in the sun. Sending all my love.